Love you, Linda. Love you.
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing "Oh Happy Day."
One word prayer. Justice, where are you?
And welcome to Justice Serve TV. I'm Michael Bryant.
And I'm Linda Kenny Bond. And the reason why I am smiling is because
You're always smiling. What is it? What's happening?
Every time I see our opening and you riding the
riding
suitcase,
the, suitcase.
Before Lady Gaga did on Saturday Night Live, I'm thinking to myself, what a trendsetter my
I'm sure Lady Gaga saw that and went, that suitcase company, I don't know the name, but those are not cheap suitcases. I'll tell you that. The riding suitcases, they are not cheap. So or you can do what I did. Get it. Mine wasn't that cheap. It's a Toomey, so it's not cheap.
Toomey's not that cheap, right?
It's not, but you can get a cheaper ride than that if you're looking for a ride on your suitcase. Hey, I feel like I've forgotten something. I feel like we're doing something, and I'm just something along the way here. Something is going to click that I forgot, but when it happens, we'll know. We obviously were on the verge of Karen Reed trial number 2. What's the deal again? No continued jury selection today. Nothing happening
Monday.
today. They're going to do Monday. Pick up a couple more alts there. What are the numbers again, and what are the genders?
They have 8 men, 8 women, and they're looking to get 2 more. They want to get right now 16. She says now 18.
Yeah.
They're looking for. I think she's going to go until she finishes her half day on Monday, and whatever they have, they have.
Yeah, that'd be interesting because they've been losing a couple and adding a couple. They haven't had a lot of clean days where they just added.
Right.
So I guess it could happen again.
Right.
That's what I'm concerned about. If you have too few going in, to an 8-week trial,
10-week trial, maybe.
Yeah, who knows? And we don't know. We haven't talked about it, and I haven't looked at mass law lately on this point. But I believe in most jurisdictions, if they were to drop below 12, you can agree to go forward, or there could be a mistrial. But I think there's an option to agree to go forward with less than 12. Is that your understanding in mass?
That's my understanding, but not a chance in hell.
I didn't say it's just a hypothetical. Yeah, I would agree. I would never do it. Why would you take one less chance to hang somebody up?
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
It's a pretty cocky move. It's a cocky move if you come off a trial number 1 where in theory you had unanimity on 1 and 3, maybe you're willing to hang it out there. Say, hey, 11 unanimous for not guilty, 12 we're good. But no, the
you know why? Because the rule of thumb is to really hang a jury. First of all, they've got to deliberate more than like one day generally. Although that's changed a little bit with now, the way people expect snap decisions. You have to go in with a 7-5 split one way or another to keep that jury hung. All right. And then after you get the Allen charge and they go back and deliberate, the jurors change. And to hold on to a split that's going to hold for a hang, at least you need that. That's the rule of thumb that you're taught as a lawyer. At least I'm taught as a trial lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It makes sense. And what we see quite often is on a, hung jury, it's an 11-1, it's a 10-2, and they get back in there and put somebody in a headlock, and they put their persuasive skills to work. And what a surprise. Now we have a unanimous verdict. Right. Sometimes it's just wearing them down. Sometimes there truly is a persuasive point that the holdouts, as they would call them,
some of them are going to flip because they get the pressure put on them. And so,
sure.
You want to, if you start with 7-5, you may end up with 11-2. I'm sorry, that doesn't count, right? 11-1, 10-2, 9-3. All right, let me do my math.
Wait a minute. So we'll see. We wanted to look into a couple of folks who have had, let's just say, a very interesting impact on this overall trial. There's so many. We talked about Proctor a little bit earlier. So we thought we'd get into Jen McCabe. We think she's probably as polarizing a character as there is from the non-law enforcement side, right? But before that, you mind if I audibilize just a second here? A couple of nights ago, when you were on your date, your your gathering, which was cool. I saw the pictures.
Still working, though. Still working. Getting
know.
Cheryl McCollum to agree to come on our show.
It's hard to turn it off. But while that was going on, and we had Tom and Kristen on, right? Tom, who's Tom CPU, we were talking, and of course, he's my fellow plaintiff in the free speech complaint against the Massachusetts State Police. And so we were talking about that. He said, "Well, I was assaulted before when covering this case." I said, "Really? What happened?" And he tells me about the audit report, the Canton from the Canton Clown Hall meeting. They had a number of pre-meetings where the citizens had to agree to do the audit, pay for the audit, $200,000, and select the company, right, to do the audit. So he was out there just to cover those setup events, right? And it was during that time where somebody assaulted him. And I said, "Well, you must have that video, because that's what he does. He wanders around streaming that live broadcast." And he didn't have it, but I got it.
And as a matter of fact, somebody in our stream on our show last night, asked for that if we have it. And I said, yes, we do have it. I thought we were going to play it last night. We ran out of time. So between the rain and
that's what we ran out. We
Yeah.
ran out of dry weather. Yeah, we had enough time because we kind of called it early, because I was looking at the forecast and it looked like maybe, and it was, I'm glad we got Mark Randazza on. If you guys didn't see that, Mark Randazza was on last night. He's the attorney in a number of these First Amendment cases, and he's amazing and he's fun, and so you should re-rack and find that. But I was going to run the Tom video, the Tom assault, then didn't get to it. I think it's worthwhile. We should do that, and I'll give just a very brief setup here because I've done most of the work, and I'm going to pick it up kind of as he's walking down this long line of people that are all there queued up to get into that meeting, right? And then somebody is not real happy with what Tom is doing. So this is wrapped round and past the building.
This is insane. Do you have a problem there, buddy? You got a fucking problem? Who the fuck is you doing? Give me my phone!
What is going on?
What are you doing taking my phone
You
from me?
ran to us.
What are you doing? Who's got my, what are you doing?
So there's Tom.
What's going on?
I don't know. Hey, where's the cop?
Are you with him? Are you with him?
Hey!
Do you want to take his phone?
Where's the cop?
Did you take his phone? Well, he's filming me.
Huh?
He started yelling at me and started filming me.
You just jumped into me. Bullshit, you jumped right. I got you on film, guy. Your wife telling you not to do it, and then you come put hands on me. What's your problem? What is wrong with you today, huh? You like touching people? All these people are witnesses to what you did. I got it on film. Man. Move on. Negative. Not moving anywhere. Hey, can someone get the cop? Where is he? Where'd the tough guy go? Where is he? Over there. Negative, not going. He's not going to go and fucking touch me in front of all these people like that. Mr. Tough Guy.
You gotta let these people go.
Right there. Right here.
So he takes the phone and then he goes to a cop car and he tries to get in and sit in the police car.
Hey, what's going on? How's the weather lady doing?
So now the cops are eventually going to show up, and you think, well, this is a piece of cake. This is easy. We got it all on digital. It's been recorded.
Yeah, she's doing good. What do you call? It's cold up in Vermont right now. They're expecting snow. So.
Yeah, well, that's what she's there for, right?
Talk here in public. This guy right there. What's stalking me right there? This guy right here.
Hey, sir. So what happening?
I got it on film. Have them give you their story and I'll show you what's on film. See if they're truthful.
Okay, sir. Do you want to come over here? Is that the top?
You're in public.
Sir, you're
Yeah, absolutely, sir. Don't touch that phone. Don't hit anything. He's walking away. Yeah.
Want to take this? Because I got gloves on. I'm trying to hit the buttons.
He's walking away. He's trying to run. He's going to run away now. See, he didn't listen to your command.
Hey, sir.
The guy starts to leave. The cops told him to come over and, and while the cops working with Tom to get his ID, this guy's leaving.
So what happened?
I'm walking, and he's over in line, and he comes running at me with his elbow right into my chest.
Are you hurting right now?
Yeah, I'm hurting. My chest is killing me.
Okay, you want to check by the ambulance?
Please, no, we want to get the guy over here. You're arresting him.
He's gonna come driving into my chest with his elbow right in front of everybody. I got it all on film. Typical Canton resident. Let's see if this gets prosecuted.
Okay.
Just like the egg thrower or the Ford egg you can't find.
You got to get him over here.
He won't come. That's three times he's been asked. He won't come. Jesus Christ! What did he hit me with? Has he got a rock in his arm or something?
Is Tom a big guy? Tom's not a big guy.
No,
right?
he's not. No.
Okay. Can you take it on the side right now? As long as it's not blocking the traffic.
No, I'm good over here.
Go get the guy.
So then I'll give you the postscript for those who weren't with us the other night. So they have a hearing, right? I mean, it's assault, it's a battery, it's a robbery, right? All these cops who were there that night show up. Nobody will testify against this guy, who turns out to be a local doctor and a buddy of Canton's finest. So nothing happens. No charges are pursued or prosecuted. So Tom was prescient when he said, "Typical Canton resident. We'll see if anybody gets prosecuted."
Did he get his phone back?
He got his phone back. He did get his phone back. Yeah, and so that's the story there. And again, this happened in terms of timing. It would have been early March, I guess. I'm trying to figure out the timing on it, but it was at that vote that night where all those people were. That was the vote to determine whether they were going to go forward with the audit and who was going to do it.
Yeah, a lot of people in line there. Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
And,
I mean, it started. I cut it for time, but it wrapped around the town hall building.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Just a hop on topic. And I know there was an election just this past week, I believe, where one of the town's select people has been removed, and there'll be a new town select person.
Connolly. I can't remember his first name, but yeah. He's been one of those targeted by the folks who are concerned about some of the insider activity that takes place there. In the town
and let me say, you can record anything in public. You don't have a right of privacy from being recorded when you are standing in public, just so that people know. You may ask somebody, please don't record me. You don't want to. Certainly a recording can't be used to sell product. You can't make money off it in that way. But just because you're being recorded, that's not an illegal action at all. Tom was within his First Amendment rights to do that.
And you could tell from what this guy did, this was not about, I don't want to be recorded. Because first of all, it was kind of dark and kind of tough to tell who was whom. He just didn't like somebody advocating, as Tom clearly does, for the Free Karen Read movement. And this guy, the good doctor, lashed out and then he was just like a little wimp.
Well, let's invite him on the show. I'd love to talk to him, see what his views
I would too. We can get that info from Tom. I can't remember his name offhand.
We'll give him a fair shake.
Yeah, I'd love to hear him explain what he thought was the right thing about what he did that day.
Yeah, and why the police? I couldn't tell from that. Did they have to take the phone back from him? Was he in possession of it?
Yeah, he had it, and I don't know at what point it was recovered. But yeah,
just let them come in and talk about it. I mean, sometimes talking things through instead of being adversarial is the best way to do things, and we'll be happy to we extend that invitation.
Oh yeah, I won't be surprised. I will be shocked if he picks up that gauntlet and takes advantage of our opportunity for him to just tell your story, because now he looks like a douchebag because he's kind of the underlying story doesn't make him look too good. But yes, please, sir, come along. And we'll talk about your medical specialties. Okay, so I guess we should get back to what we originally got together to talk about. Sorry,
it's all related, isn't it? It's related to the
it's totally related. Yeah, it's
related to the audit, the Sandra Birchmore case. It's all related to what we've been talking about. That Karen Read is a vehicle for the winter of discontent. I'm to paraphrase Shakespeare.
winter is coming, to paraphrase Game of Thrones. So let's dip into a little.
Winter's still here in my door. It snowed today.
Is that
April
crazy or
10th and
what?
April 11th, okay, in New York State. Okay.
It's I think I've mentioned the first year I moved here, we had snow on March 30th. I said this is not going to go well. This is not good. Coming from California, snow March 30th. Are you kidding?
If that's dated.
Okay, so this is of course Jen McCabe. This is the cross-examination, a chunk of it. We're just going to kind of dive into it and give you our thoughts
October
here.
of 2023. That's what I'm trying to get to. I don't know the date because it's not dated.
So I don't either.
So do you think it was between September and October?
It must have been.
Had to have been, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Before I get to that, I've got a couple of other questions. You had, at some point, multiple phone calls with Michael Proctor after January 29th, 2022, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. Do you remember?
You can't even
all
say
the
yes or
phone
no to
calls
that.
you had with him?
No, I don't.
Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at a log of your phone calls?
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you.
May I approach?
Yes. Is this what was marked 00 or
It's
00
not.
this morning?
That will be next.
Okay.
This is just a folder, the ones that are tabbed or highlighted.
You want to ask Alan Jackson what determines whether he goes
Thank you.
full
Look at that
beard,
and tell me
no
if-
beard.
Specifically,
How does that decision
a
get
lot
made?
of calls there. There are blue tabs. If you could look at those blue tabs and then tell me when you've taken a look at those.
Okay.
Remember, this is just to refresh her recollection about whether she had phone calls with now ex-trooper Proctor.
Yes, just on or just after the date of the incident, January 29th. So she's not going to read from this. It's just an internal, review, processing. Then he'll ask, does that refresh your recollection about how many calls you had? And we'll see if it does.
She can say no, doesn't.
She could say no.
By the way, you can refresh recollection with anything, even the kitchen sink. People don't realize that.
Yeah, and it's not in evidence. It could be sometimes in evidence, but it doesn't have to be.
Right. Doesn't
Yes.
have to be even related to the case. If she says a bathtub will refresh her recollection, that would be fine. It's just a little point that in teaching people about refreshing recollection, they think it has to be something that's in evidence or something that you made. It's not. It doesn't have to be.
And as important, they have to say first, in response to a question about it, that no, I don't remember. Okay,
Right.
now I can refresh.
Having looked at this set of records, does this appear to be an accurate reflection of the phone calls that you shared with Michael Proctor at some point on and after January 29th?
Yes.
Just to summarize those, and I don't want to belabor this, but there was a call on the 29th at 10:55 a.m. with Trooper Proctor, correct?
Correct.
There was a call on the 29th at 12:49 p.m., correct?
I didn't memorize them.
I understand. Would you?
So if you want to give me the paper back, then I could probably answer correctly.
You want to
Okay.
do it that way, we certainly can. May I?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, remember, he didn't say, does that refresh your recollection when he came back? He said, is this an accurate reflection of the phone calls you had? So he's actually testifying.
First call, January 29th, 10:55 a.m. Trooper Proctor calls you for 1 minute and 17 seconds.
Correct.
Next tab, January 29th, 12:49 p.m. Trooper Proctor calls you for 1 minute and 8 seconds.
Correct.
January 30th at 9:51 a.m. You called Trooper Proctor, 4-second call, probably a voicemail or something.
Correct.
Butt dial.
January 30th, a minute later, 9:52 a.m., you then called Trooper Proctor again, 21 minutes and 31 seconds for that call.
Correct.
January 30th, same day, 4:45 p.m., Trooper Proctor calls you for 9 minutes and 43 seconds.
Correct.
January 31st, the next day, at 11:51 a.m., You call Trooper Proctor for 2 minutes and 53 seconds.
Correct.
That is the sum of those call logs, correct?
Correct.
Can I approach?
Yes.
Those aren't all the calls that you had with Trooper Proctor. That didn't stop. It's just where these logs stop, correct?
I'd have to see my further call logs.
Do you believe that you've had additional phone calls with Trooper Proctor after that last call on the 31st?
I know I did in 2023.
Okay. In 2022, did you have additional phone calls with him?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look at phone records.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
So clearly here, he was hoping that she would just say, well, yeah, I'm sure I talked to him a few times. But she's not helping. Her goal is not to help the defense.
She's, I mean, because normally you say, yeah, I had calls. I don't remember when they are, but, if you want to show me when they are, but I know I've had calls, right?
Mhm.
I mean, how can you forget you've had calls when
Right.
about this?
Especially when you just hear that list of them over a short period of time.
Right.
You know whether it was the end of calls or not.
I mean, you had 6 calls, at least 30, about 35, I'm just summarizing generally. But it's in a very short period of time.
I'm going to speed this up a touch here.
Again, I don't recall.
Okay. Understood that this is not a memory test, and I don't have the records in front of me, so I apologize about that. Based on the conversation that we've just had, does that jog your memory that you had multiple calls in February and March with Trooper Proctor, as well as the calls we've gone over with the records in January?
To be honest, I had calls with many people. I was in a state of shock for months following this. So if you have the record, I can answer off of that. But besides that, just reading them to me does not jog my memory. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You wouldn't quarrel with the idea, I don't want to hold you to a number, you wouldn't quarrel with the idea that you had multiple calls with Trooper Proctor in January, in February, in March, correct?
Well, the ones I've just saw on the record, yes, there were multiple calls there.
And of course, you met him in your home on January 29th.
Yes, I did.
And he came into your living room, and you had a conversation with him.
In my dining room, yes.
I'm sorry, your dining room. And also, Carrie Roberts was there.
Carrie Roberts was not there.
On the 29th?
Carrie Roberts was not at my house on the 29th, no.
When was she at your house when she was interviewed?
I believe that was the Tuesday, whatever the date was.
Maybe first? That sound right? First or second?
Yeah, something. It was the Tuesday following.
Okay. And was that with Trooper Proctor or a different trooper?
A different trooper.
And with Trooper Proctor on the 29th, when he was interviewing you in your dining room, that was the day that Brian Albert was also there.
Correct.
And was Brian Albert also interviewed on that day?
I believe so.
So Trooper Proctor was in your house for, gosh, it had to have been an hour.
I'm not sure. After I interviewed, I went upstairs, and then my children started waking up, and I was tied upstairs for a while. I'm not sure when or how long he was there.
But your memory is clear that not only did you meet Trooper Proctor on that day, you had a full conversation with him. It was in your house, that was in your kitchen, in your dining room, and another witness was interviewed by Trooper Proctor in your home as well.
Correct.
And then you had multiple conversations with him in January on that day, the day after, and the day after that. You've already seen those records, correct?
Yes, correct.
Then in either September or October, you were interviewed by Lieutenant Tully. That's the report that you've already seen.
Correct.
And in that interview, you were asked specifically whether or not you had a relationship with Trooper Proctor and when that relationship started, correct?
Correct.
And you said, quote, you had never met Elizabeth Proctor or Michael Proctor prior to September 2023, correct?
I did not say that.
So yet again, this is another example of a trooper completely getting it wrong. Is that right?
Objection.
Sustained, ask it differently.
In your view, did Lieutenant Tully get your statement wrong that you had never met Trooper Proctor before September of 2023?
Objection.
Is that true or is that wrong?
Lieutenant Tully knew I met Proctor prior to that because Proctor was the one who did the initial interview on January 29th.
Does it make you wonder why he wrote in his statement, quote, "You've
Objection, Your
never
Honor.
met Elizabeth Proctor or Michael Proctor prior to September 2023.
So the objection sustained.
If
She's
you
been
indicated
trained not
that
to
you had never
answer.
met
You can
Trooper
see that.
Proctor before September of 2023, that would be a false statement, correct?
Objection.
You can answer that, Ms. McCabe.
I met Proctor January 29th. It's
Been a false
everywhere.
statement. If you said it, would it have been false? That's all I'm asking.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a important back and forth here. Partly because, as you suggest, she's been trained. You know, she was told there will be objections. Let them happen. Don't open your mouth. Don't volunteer. And she's not volunteering anything.
Right. She's making Alan Jackson work for every single little tidbit
Yes.
that he's getting.
And
Right.
here's credit to what he's doing and how he's circling back and not giving up, because a lot of attorneys might. You know, when she balked at the question about, well, you had more conversations with Proctor after those that we've talked about, right? Well, I don't know. You know, I know the ones that you showed me. I definitely did. But she would not give him a thing, admitting that she had continued contact with Proctor. And he didn't have the documents for whatever reason. He didn't have those documents. But he
Right.
circled back and he asked, well, would you, I think what is the word he used? I would normally say, well, do you deny that it happened? You know, so you put it on the witness, you know, do you deny that you had and then she's got to say yes or no. And if she says, well, no, I deny those extra calls ever happened, then you got her, because you know you can find the evidence that she did. And he used a similar tactic. And she's just been very squirmy about not giving him those simplest of things. But he's taking the tact that allows him a second shot at pinning her down, which is so important.
And that's when you see that, when jurors see that, then they say, what are what are you hiding? Because it can happen on some questions, but if it's all the way through the testimony that you're not giving to the most simple things, like, did you talk to Trooper Proctor? Yeah, I don't remember when. I mean, most of us would say, did you talk to Michael Bryant? Yeah, of course I did, but I don't remember exactly. Yeah. We talk a lot of different times. I show, if you want to know exact, then I'm gonna have to need some records. But yeah, we talked.
Right, and look how hard it was for her to just admit that whatever Tully wrote in that report was a flat-ass lie. You know, he wrote in the report that Jen McCabe had not had any relationship with or meetings with Proctor before September 2023. Well, we know from what we've just heard that was a lie. And if she's telling the truth about having met with Tully in her home when he interviewed somebody, then how and why would Tully put that in a report unless he's trying to mislead somebody?
Or unless she actually said that, and that's what he put in his report, because maybe the theory is that she's trying to mislead somebody, right?
That's true. If it's written in the report,
right,
as a quote, that she said, quote, versus, a narrative type report. But somebody's lying, right? Either it's her to Tully or it's Tully on his own.
Or somebody would say they're mistaken. They got it wrong. They're mistaken.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's just such a blatant mistruth. I'm gonna call it a lie. Because there's tons of contact between Proctor and McCabe long before September 2023.
Right.
Okay. Let's see where we go.
On January 29th, in the early morning hours, I want to take you all the way back to 1:30, 1:45 a.m. when you left 34 Fairview on the 29th. After you dropped off the girls, where did you and Matt McCabe go?
We came home.
After you got home, you indicated that you went upstairs, correct?
Correct.
This is called looping.
After you went upstairs,
putting
you
her
indicated that you got
answer
on the phone.
into your next question.
Correct.
On your cell phone, correct? After you got on your cell phone, you indicated that you started searching for stuff.
Correct.
So if there's GPS, that you've seen the forensic extraction or part of it, correct?
Which one are you referring to?
Phone. The forensic extraction of your phone.
I saw what you showed me yesterday from Celebrate.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
From Celebrate, part of it.
I saw, yeah, the phone calls, yes.
Okay. You're aware that that extraction shows that you got home after 2 a.m. or so that would be generally correct.
Correct.
The Celebrate extraction shows from your Apple Health data that you actually went up a set of stairs. That would be accurate, correct?
Accurate.
The Celebrate data shows that you actually
Can we
logged
stop it
into
right
your
there?
phone.
Sure.
That becomes important because the fact that she goes up a set of stairs and her Apple Health data shows it on the Cellbrite extraction, right, is extremely important because then that goes to the issue of John O'Keefe when the Apple Health data shows that he goes up 3 flights of stairs, right, and it shows it that now the state is disputing. So this becomes, I think, something that was kind of missed in trial in terms of linking the accuracy of the Apple Health data and the extractions.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you're going to lend credibility to her information and her travels, how can you discount it when it comes to Officer John O'Keefe?
To log in either Face ID or a passcode, opened up the phone. That would be accurate.
Correct.
The Celebrate data shows that you were engaging with an app called Safari to engage some Google searches, correct?
Yes.
That would be generally accurate as well, correct?
Yes.
So after you opened up Safari, you indicated that you Google searched something about ozone basketball. Is that right?
Yes.
That was sometime after 2 a.m., right?
Yes.
What was so important about ozone basketball at 2 a.m. that it couldn't wait until the morning? Why did you search it then?
Well, first I was home, I was wide awake, and I had been texting about a basketball chat, and basketball was clearly on my mind. My daughter had been invited to join a team. I didn't know much about the team, so I just was like Googling to see, because the woman who had given my daughter the offer had wanted an answer.
So you say that basketball was on your mind.
By the way, notice how
Yes.
she turns to the jury like a professional
What
witness.
else on your mind? That early morning hour time frame.
Don't believe so.
Ms. McCabe, if you wanted to know, in general, how long it takes for a human being to pass away because of exposure to extreme temperatures, right? If you wanted to know the answer to that, what would you Google search? What phrase would you use?
I'm not sure. All I recall is what the defendant asked me to Google in the morning.
If you wanted to know, I'm asking a different question.
That's right. He's asking a
If you
different
personally
question.
wanted to know, how long does it take for a person to die of exposure due to extreme temperatures, what would you put in? What phrase would you use?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, we don't have to guess at the phrase that you would use if you wanted to know something about dying of hypothermia, do we? Because you actually Google searched it.
Objection.
Sustained. Ask that differently, please.
Did you, in fact, use a phrase to Google search how long it takes for someone to die of extreme temperatures?
I did in the morning at the request of your client.
Okay. And what phrase did you use?
I'm not sure.
See how she leans in like that?
Correct. I was.
She's
2.5 years of this,
making
you don't
that
know
point
the
she
phrase
wants.
that you used?
Objection, Your Honor.
There's so many lies and misconceptions
question.
on social media.
Question.
Oh, I apologize.
Okay.
It's getting a little testy here.
Are you telling me you don't remember what Google search you put in?
Karen was screaming. My hands were shaking, and she was saying, Google hypothermia, how long does it take to die in the cold?
And what phrase did you put in your phone? I'm just asking you to say it.
Why don't you show me it?
You literally don't remember?
Again, she was screaming, Google hypothermia, how long does it take to die in the cold?
How about,
And I picked up my phone and I started Googling.
and you literally to this day, right now, under oath, you're saying you don't remember that phrase that you used.
Objection.
She's a
I'll
little
allow
dry
Is that what
tongue.
you're saying?
I'm saying that at her,
Do you remember it or do you not, Ms. McCabe? That's a simple question.
that morning, I don't remember specifically what I Googled, but I do know what you've put out to the social media.
How about this? Hoss long to die in cold. That sound familiar?
Yeah, it's been
Why
everywhere
does that sound so familiar?
because you've put it out in social media.
Well, I haven't put anything out in social media because I don't personally have social media.
I'm sorry, Turtle Boy did.
So if the world happens to know it, that's not on me, is it?
I guess not.
I guess not. Hoss long to die in cold is what you put in to the Google search, right?
If you say so.
Is there a reason that you don't want to admit to that?
Absolutely not.
It's a simple question, right?
No reason.
So say it. What Google search did you use?
Objection.
Sustained.
That should not have been sustained. She didn't answer the question.
Of course not.
And by the way, we're going to get to the point that that's the only search on her phone that was deleted.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get there on this little chunk, but yeah.
I thought we'd mention it because we probably won't get there.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we know that the position that the prosecution has taken is that a tab was opened at 2:27 a.m. and that's the one related to the search for the Ozone basketball team that she was so insistent on pointing at the jury and giving them the eye, saying that's believable, right? My daughter was asked to be on this team, so you understand that, right? And so I was, that's the only time she's turned and looked specifically at the jury. So that happens at 2:27. Therefore, according to their expert who testified last time, I can't believe they won't be showing up again. The reason it looks like it was searched then at 2:27 was because it was a tab open for the Ozone basketball search. Therefore, when she searched it by her own admission later that morning, it still seems to be attached to that tab because it was still open. That's the theory. So,
Prosecution theory.
Yes, the prosecution theory, which sounds more like a defense theory, if you ask me. Very defensive.
You were seeking at some point to Google how long to die in the cold, correct?
Correct.
And you made a mistake and mistakenly typed Hoss long to die in cold, correct?
If you could show me it, I'd appreciate it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. This is where we've now turned the corner from neutral to unlikable. If every witness sitting in the box has kind of a neutral feel, right? You don't know them, you haven't seen them, haven't heard them, don't know anything about them. You immediately start coming up with I call it the likability factor or unlikability factor based on everything they say and do from that point forward. And it didn't take long for her to become just so unlikable. And she is not helping herself by taking the simplest questions and making it difficult because it just seems unreasonable. And you just start thinking, what are you hiding? What's the big deal?
And you remember how we talked with Proctor, we went through his testimony, whether he'd be called in the second trial. And if he doesn't get called, if Alan Jackson calls him, could he cross-examine him? Only if he became a hostile witness. Well, you just saw exactly, if this were in that situation, hostility, okay?
Yeah.
When she turns to him actually before and says, because you put it out there in social media, then she becomes, he's allowed to cross her now because she is a hostile witness by the fact that she's testifying for the prosecution. But let's assuming she were a neutral witness and being called by him, that would make her a hostile witness, just so everyone knows how a hostile witness looks.
Yeah, and if you're looking at it in the context of direct examination versus cross-examination, just imagine direct examination, normally a friendly witness, or at least neutral, and you're getting to examine them now as if it's cross, even though it is not. And that's based on this kind of behavior.
You later Google searched. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Remember I
Going for
told
the
you
water.
that the water,
Going for the water.
The water means you're nervous,
Thank you.
means your mouth is getting
While
dry.
she looks at that, Mr. Jackson, can we bring our clerk back upstairs?
Of course, yes. I think we're that ship is.
Thank you very much. Can you text Jimmy and tell him?
Jimmy, what's Jimmy doing now?
Take a look at that report and tell me if that refreshes your recollection.
Yes, it does.
Does that appear to be an accurate page from a Celebrite extraction from your phone?
It does.
Okay. May I have that back? I'm sorry, may I approach?
Yes.
May I have that back for a second?
Yes.
Did you see this, the actual search phrase? Does
Yes.
that now refresh your recollection?
Yes.
But I'd like to have this marked as next in order. Exhibit, please.
Is there an objection, Mr. Lally?
No, Your Honor.
Jim?
May I?
Yes. Is that, Madam Court Reporter? I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to publish this, Your Honor.
Okay.
Okay, see how that process takes place. He's used it to refresh your recollection, and now he wants to at least show it as an exhibit.
Yeah, right.
Next step would be to ask that it be admitted into evidence.
Does this appear to be the document that was just marked as Exhibit 99?
Yes.
I know it's a little bit small, Mr. Basin. You see this column,
Yes.
third column from the, actually it's the fourth column from the left. One, some dates, some data, and then a Google search, correct?
Correct.
What does that Google search say?
House long to die in cold.
Now, you indicate that you did that, you made that search
Can we stop it right there?
at 6:23.
This just shows you about how a good attorney can get there when the witness won't admit it. She refused to say that word. She refused to say that phrase, right? And there was even a sustained objection from the judge when he asked her, what did you search? Probably because asked and not answered. I mean, just asked a number of times. I don't know. But he got around it by getting to refresh your recollection, by moving an exhibit in. There it is in black and white on the screen, and then he has her read it. So it's not what
6:23.
You can't get out of it.
I'm sorry here. I lost my button here. I'm sorry to interrupt your thought. Go ahead.
No, that was my thought. She couldn't get around it because there it is. Everyone can see it.
Yep. And then I hit the button and it went the wrong spot. I think I'm picking it up somewhere
Again,
here.
it's what the report says.
And that comports with your memory of that morning, about 6:23 in the morning in 51 seconds.
Correct.
There's a second search, correct?
Correct.
And this one, at 6:24, it says Hoslong to die in cold. 6:24:16, correct?
Correct.
I'm sorry, 18. My eyes aren't that great. And that comports with your memory as well.
I remember Googling it at the request of the defendant. Yes.
About 27 seconds apart, correct?
Yes.
But the reality is, your first search didn't comport with the 2:27 a.m. search, did it? It was a different spelling, wasn't it?
I never searched a 227. That is not reality.
But the 6:24 search did exactly mirror the search that, according to this report, took place at 2:27, correct?
I'm sure Celebrite will be able to explain it to you. I can't.
And then, of those three searches, one of them ended up deleted. Isn't that right?
I never deleted any search.
Take a
Was
look.
it a butt delete? Does
Civil
that
records
exist?
report. Top search, and the column marked deleted. What do you see?
I see a yes.
Let me take this down. Ms. McCabe, the reason you deleted that 2:27 a.m. call is because you realized that if you were caught Googling how long it takes for a person to die in the cold 3.5 hours before John's body was found, that would incriminate you, wouldn't it?
Objection.
The objection sustained.
Did you delete that search because you knew that you would be implicated in John O'Keefe's death if that search was found on your phone?
Objection.
I'll let you. Could you answer that, please?
I did not delete that search. I never made that search at 2:23. I never would have left John O'Keefe out in the cold to die because he was my friend that I loved.
But he's not your family, is he?
Family and friends.
Is he not your...
Sustained.
You acknowledge that you made the search at 6:23, don't you?
In the morning I did, yes.
You acknowledge that you made the search at 6:24.
Multiple times in the morning, yes.
Of the 3 searches that show up, that were all found on your phone, the one that you disavow is the one that took place at 2:27 a.m., which would implicate you and exonerate my client, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. Can I ask it differently, Mr. Jackson?
He doesn't need to.
Nope.
Of those 3 searches, there was only one marked deleted. Isn't that right?
Correct.
That was the one at 2:27 a.m., correct?
I wouldn't even know how to go in and delete a
That's not what I
search.
asked
Ooh,
you.
subject. By the way, she also said
Celebrate
223.
report.
Yeah, well, she got confused with the 623 that she acknowledges having done, and the 227 she says she never did. She got a little twisted there.
27 a.m., correct?
Correct.
You would agree that that's awfully convenient for you, isn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Okay, I mean that's a great series right there, and it doesn't matter if she
It is.
answered any of those questions,
Right.
because the
There is a-
jury, no, they can see exactly what's happening. So let me ask you this: if you're trying to convince the jury that A, this person's a liar, and B, most importantly, that these cell phone records are legit, that in fact, unless somebody deleted one of those searches, it didn't just disappear. Somebody did it, and therefore we don't trust her. We don't believe anything she says. We're going to totally discount her testimony, or probably hold it against the prosecution. What do you think?
No, obviously, I mean, the searches are almost the same, right? If we go back and we show that one exhibit, I mean, the same person put them in. What, she's going to, Karen Reed tell her to put in all 3 of those searches? That's why she used that information? I mean, come on. It doesn't make any sense. It's on her phone. And we all know, we've all seen reports, and now the prosecution has to disavow Cellbrite and say Cellbrite is not accurate when it says the only search that gets deleted is the one that could implicate her. It's brutal testimony. It's brutal evidence.
It really is.
For the state.
For the state, yeah. This is a key witness, and it ain't going well.
And
so
she's not, her demeanor is also,
brutal.
demeanor is so important when witnesses testify, right? So important. She looked angry. She started getting angry even when she knew the subject was coming. They hadn't even come in. She started getting angry. You started seeing, because she knew what was coming about the search, right? Her eyes started popping. You knew that she was getting nervous. I told you, I think I mentioned yesterday that we're trained, a psychologist will train one of the best psychiatrists I've ever met in my life, forensic psychiatrist, Dr. Robert Sadoff, will talk about a witness drinks water. That's a touchy point for them, you know,
yes.
usually.
Gulp. Getting a little dry.
Yeah, and it's a time. Not when you're getting on the stand, you just have your water to start, so you're hydrating yourself and you're getting ready for battle. But when you're in the battle and all of a sudden, you know, your body posture is going like this and your eyes are going like that, and you stop turning to the jury and being that relaxed, all right, and then you start taking the water, that's when you know that there's an issue going on.
Yeah, I mean, she had to be so thoroughly prepped for this stuff. You know, that deleted text is brutal, but in the heat of battle, when it actually unfolds, you can't really prepare for that if you've not been in that seat, that hot seat before. And it's clear that it was getting to her, and she's lashing out. I don't know. If I'm in the jury, I don't like her at all, and I don't believe a damn thing she says, because you can't deny things that are seemingly easy to prove or disprove just because she contradicts them. Oh, I believe her. I can't.
Right, exactly. And again, the defense, I think, missed out on the point that her Apple Watch testimony validates the Apple Watch going up a flight of stairs or not. And I think that's kind of important. That's a linkage they may not have had.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see if, you know, on the part 2, if that is explored more fully, because clearly they rely on a lot of these same technological advances and information. You know, everybody argues what they want to support their position. But that's a pretty healthy contradiction if you're going to try and tear down Apple as it relates to Officer John O'Keefe and build up Apple as it relates to anybody else.
Right.
So, And I having been out there and having done, I've heard people talk about the old 3-point turn, but there was a 3-point turn, and that road is undulating, and that accounts for the apparent 3 flights of stairs up and down, not 3 up or 3 down, but up down up or up down or down up down. The road is not that undulating, and it's over a big a piece of dirt.
Right.
That's a long block, and it does have some turns, and it does have slight rises, but not in that area, not right there.
Right, not
And
right
there's
where
yeah.
geolocation shows it, right.
And I'm not so sure. Somebody mentioned when I did the drive from 34 Fairview over to One Meadows, that I might have been going the wrong way. That there's this
Right, somebody
evidence
said
there
that,
was
right.
a 3-point turn. I'm not sure I believe that. Number one, and it wouldn't make a massive difference in the drive time. It's a slightly different route, but you're still getting there in plenty of time for Karen Reed's cell phone to connect to the Wi-Fi.
No matter which
Keep.
way she took, whether she went left or
Right.
whether she went right. That's the whole point.
Exactly. Yeah. And so the 3-point turn may be just a red herring. I don't know. I don't think it's significant in terms of travel time, though. So I don't know. I'm not sure what else is on here. You want to listen to a little bit more and see what we got?
Yeah, let's see what we got.
See if she melts down any further.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay,
That's
Mr. Lally?
That's it.
You want to hear a little redirect? Or have you had enough?
Yeah, no, I think we should hear a little redirect. Let's be fair.
Yes. Thank you.
This is something we may not get to see. Adam Lawley questioning anybody.
Tell you, I'd be so mortified if I were him that he's been put in that position.
Me too. It's just it's an embarrassment.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Going back a little bit, you were asked some questions about Life 360 application that you had on your phone, is that right?
Yes.
And you're familiar with that app and familiar with sort of using that app to see where your children are at various times, is that correct?
Yes.
And from your experience using that app, how accurate is it as far as location or time or anything in regard to it?
Pretty accurate, varying some of their locations and sometimes weather.
Have you ever had instances in which you were told someone was somewhere and they were not there?
Yes.
You were asked some questions about Ryan Nagel's truck, correct?
Yes.
And do you know, or did you on January 29th, 2022, did you know Ryan Nagel?
I did not.
Did you know what kind of vehicle he drove?
I did not.
Keep your voice up, Mr. Lally, please.
Do you know whether or not that was actually somebody else's truck?
I do not know.
Do you know whether or not on January 29th, 2022, Ryan Nagel had a friend named Ricky?
I do now.
But on the 29th, did you?
No.
On the 29th, did you have any idea what kind of vehicle he drove?
No.
This person you didn't know.
Right. Correct.
Now, when you looked outside as far as the truck was concerned, did you even see a truck?
I just saw lights, vehicle. I didn't focus much attention to what was over there.
So fair to say you weren't paying attention to a truck you didn't see, a person you didn't know, that you had never seen before, correct?
Sustained as to that form.
Now, you were asked some questions.
Look at how more
about,
relaxed she is now, and that prosecution
Ryan
goes
Nagel
back
and
up.
Julie Nagel, correct?
Yes.
And as far as when those texts were sent, you don't know that, do you?
Can you clarify?
Sure. Do you know whether or not Ryan Nagel texted his sister Julie before he had even pulled onto Fairview Road?
They were texting at about his arrival.
Texting about his arrival, but do you know where Ryan Nagel was when he was texting Julie about his arrival?
I believe he was outside.
But
you don't know that.
No.
I don't know why we're even getting into this. How's she
Do you
going to
know
know?
whether or not Ryan Nagel
I mean,
was
obviously-
in Cedar Crest or somewhere else when he texted Julie?
defense
that he
doesn't
was
care
about
at this
to arrive
point.
or that he was there?
Objection.
They're all allowed.
Now
Do
they
you know
care.
that?
I don't know that, no.
As far as the defendant's motor vehicle and the truck that Mr. Nagel was in, did you see either of those vehicles arrive in front of Fairview?
Yes.
You saw
That's
them
only
pull
cares
up.
when it has to do with his client.
No, actually, are you asking if I
uh-oh.
saw them pulling up or if I saw when they arrived? I did not see them pulling up.
So at some point after they arrived, your attention was drawn outside.
Yes.
And when we're talking about you going to the door and looking outside, how long a period are you looking at?
Not long.
So would you describe it as either a glance or more of a, were you staring intently at the vehicle out in front of the house? Objection.
Sustained.
How would you describe?
That's because he
the
gave
manner
her
in which
the
you were
answer.
looking
You
out
see
into
that?
the
Total
vicinity
leading.
in front of the house?
Totally leading, right?
I would go to the front door. I look out. I saw the vehicle. I believe I sent a text, and I went and sat back down.
Everyone says vehicle. Car. Better a car, SUV,
Yeah.
you know, talk like normal people. Truck.
Now, in any
Yeah.
of those times
Cops say
that
vehicle.
you went to the door, and do you know how many times you went to the door?
I don't know exactly.
At least twice, is that correct?
At least, yes.
And she's a mess. He's trying to rehabilitate
Now,
her, and she's
in
digging a
those
deeper
at
hole.
least twice that you, well, at least twice that you saw the vehicle.
He's asking
twice
leading
that
questions,
once that
you
saw
know,
the
and
vehicle was gone,
That,
correct?
you know, it's because she can't answer the way he needs her to answer. You know, he says, you didn't see either of those vehicles arrive, did you? Well, yeah. No, but did you see them? You know,
right,
you're
right.
not answering the way you need to be answering, and she's not getting it. She's not tracking.
Yeah, so I guess actually it was more than twice because I saw the vehicle move as well.
And when you say as far as you saw the vehicle move, did you see the vehicle physically move, or it was in one place and then you came back later and it was in a different place?
It was in one place, and then when I came back, it was further up.
Now, at any of those points in time that you took a glance out the storm door, did you see anybody outside of the vehicle?
No,
Did you see inside of the vehicle?
no,
Did you see anybody outside other than Julie Nagel on the front lawn or front walkway or anything else?
no,
At any point in time while you were at 34 Fairview that night, did you see John O'Keefe?
no,
At any point in time when you texted John O'Keefe after you arrived at Fairview, did John O'Keefe respond?
no,
At any point in time after you arrived at Fairview, or after you hung up from the 12:18 a.m. call in which you were describing where 34 Fairview was in reference to Bella's house, did you ever hear from John O'Keefe ever again?
no.
And during that about 20-minute or so period of time when Mr. O'Keefe or the defendant's SUV is in front of the house, you never heard anything from John O'Keefe, correct?
Correct.
And did that strike you as unusual as far as him not responding?
I thought it was strange, but then I thought that they just might have decided to go home or had gotten into a fight or Kaylee wanted him home.
Notice how you get they got
You're
into a
looking out
fight.
the
I mean,
storm
just
door and you see
gratuitously
Alexis with its
saying
lights,
these
right?
things.
Correct.
And
Yeah, because when I have somebody who I think is going to come over visit, if they don't make it, one of the first things I think of is, do they get in a fight? I mean,
No, yeah, that's the first thing you think. No, you're right. Sure.
it's just,
I
you know,
mean,
I
you know,
understand.
it's-
I understand the Irish goodbye, you know, where, hey, yeah, we'll see you over there, and then they just never go, right? But fight is not usually the default position after that.
from that area, the secondary area, up by the flagpole and the fire hydrant, that's the same area where you found John O'Keefe the next morning, correct?
Correct.
And with reference to that area, is there any lights as far as street lights or anything that you're aware of in that area?
No, it's a dark area in the corner of the lot.
Now, at any point in time, were you looking or were you expecting to see John's body on the lawn?
Absolutely not.
And fair to say that when you're looking in the dark, in the snow, from a storm door, out towards a vehicle, not the same conditions as if you're standing in a courtroom or sitting in a courtroom today, about 10 feet away from somebody during the daytime with lights on, correct?
Correct.
that's called a gimme question.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
In fact, when you go back to Fairview the next morning, and again, who was the person who requested or directed to go to Fairview?
Karen.
And so when you go to Fairview along with the defendant and Ms. Roberts at the defendant's direction, sometime around 6 a.m., when was it that you first saw Mr. O'Keefe?
I wasn't the one to first see him. Karen was.
So she's banging on the door, asking it to be let out. She goes directly over to the body, correct?
Correct.
And neither you nor Ms. Roberts, well, you didn't see Mr. O'Keefe on the lawn until after she did that, correct?
Correct.
And that was after you had already sort of driven a little bit past where he was, correct?
Correct.
Now, with reference to you get home from Fairview around 2 a.m. or somewhere in that time frame. You go up to bed and you do some searches on your phone, correct?
Correct.
And so there's a Safari tab or application on your phone. That's where you access Google.
Yes.
Is that typically where you would access Google?
Yes.
And you were looking at Ozone basketball. You're also looking at Hockomock, is that right?
Objection.
Sustained.
What, if anything else, were you looking at beyond the Ozone basketball you talked about?
We had an exciting game earlier in the night against a local town that has a very good basketball program. So I went on Hockomock Sports to look at the recap, and typically I'll do that to see how other teams did, etc.
And around that same time, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, within when you did that, as far as looking things up on Google, were you opening up new tabs within Safari as you were looking at different websites or different topics?
No.
And when you went to bed or you went to sleep that evening, at some point you turned off your phone, right?
Correct.
And did you X out that box, that Safari tab that you were doing those searches with regard to Ozone and Hockomock?
No, I used to always leave my tabs open and my kids would yell at me.
As far as having multiple tabs open, is that correct?
Drains my battery, etc. Yes.
So then flash forward to sometime after 6 a.m., you're on the side of the road and the defendant asks you to conduct or look up something with regard to hypothermia or how long to die in the cold, correct?
Correct.
So when you open that up and you go into Google, did you open up a new tab or did you just sort of go into what you had already open in the Safari tab?
I went to what I already had opened.
And that's where you performed the search, is that right?
Excuse me?
That's where you performed the search that you were just being asked about?
Yes.
And you never made any search like that at 2:27 in the morning, correct?
I did not know.
Now,
Just stop a second, Michael. One of the things I've been thinking about now, because he said it again, she said that Karen Reed asked her to search hypothermia, right? She then searches how long to die in the cold, right? How long to die in the cold. That's like two separate things. Could you research hypothermia? So you would put in hypothermia, right?
You can be alive and have hypothermia.
Right.
Yeah.
But how long? But the search is how long. How we know there's a mistake. How long is sort of to die in the cold. So that's two separate things. I'm not sure. I think the defense can do something with that because I think that's a real. That's a difference. That's an absolute difference.
Yeah, and it also puts it on her, since she did the search, the one she admits to having been done at 6 something. She must have then interpreted hypothermia, right?
Right.
She in her brain said, "Oh, hypothermia means how long to die in the cold,"
right?
Which it doesn't mean. That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
She's again reinforcing with the jury every time she talks about what was going on with the search with the basketball and the other team and the scores. That for her is important that she get eye contact with the jury. So, what would your body language expert suggest about that? That it's something manufactured that she wants to make sure she gets across. I mean, why is that nugget so important?
That's look at me, I'm just the mom. They're just a witness. But when we get to the other stuff, we don't do that. We're intent on the other things. But that hypothermia and how long to die in the cold, that's two separate issues. So even if Karen Reed said, "Could you research hypothermia?" and she says to die in the cold, why is she automatically assumed dead? Okay.
Yeah, I guess, and I think there is a legitimate answer, but I think the subject should be poked. And the legitimate answer might just be, well, I don't even know how to spell that, and I just interpreted that as.
Oh boy!
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just I'm throwing it out there.
Okay.
I'm anticipating. That's what I'm doing. So I do have a question for a tech expert, and I don't know that this was asked or answered in the trial. The tab issue to me. If you have opened a tab at 2:27,
opening a new window,
and you've been looking at Ozone basketball, and you've been looking at scores for that other name that I can't pronounce, some Indian name, I think it is, Native American name, and wouldn't there be a history of those searches above the how long to die in the cold?
Yeah, interesting, because I would think so. When you go look at your own search history, right, your history.
If it's truly connected to that tab, you might have 3 or 4 things that she suggested, very importantly, to the jury that I did search. Then you'd have How's Long to Die in the Cold as the last thing. But I think there would, I don't know. It seems to me there would be a footprint for that.
But yeah, but then how are you just deleting that? Okay, how you just delete if it's open in a tab all once, right? A one.
Yeah.
Then how you deleting that without deleting the other 4? Okay, if it's open in a window, then it's easy to delete.
And why weren't those ozone basketball and other things identified anywhere as having existed or been deleted? Either one.
Right. Well, they weren't.
They're not on the Cellbrite report, right?
Only search. I don't know about the other ones, but the only search that was identified as having been deleted was the 227.
Yeah. Well, if I was the prosecution, then
about How's Long to Die in the Cold. That's the only one that says deleted.
Obviously, that's the one the defense wants to focus on. But if I'm the prosecution, I want to see the ones prior and see if they were deleted or if they still existed. The ozone basketball and the other one about some scores from another team.
Well, if you're the defense, you want that too, right? Because if those are still there,
if they aren't deleted,
if they aren't deleted, and the only thing that gets deleted on a tab versus a window is this one search. All right, I mean, because that was the whole issue.
I think it cuts both ways.
Their expert says tabs. It's tabs, therefore that's why it shows that it's open then, because she never closed down the tabs.
For the defense, I think that part cuts both ways because it lends credibility to her story that she was searching scores and she was searching for this ozone basketball team her daughter might join. I don't know if I want to support that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have to see what the report says.
Yeah, I don't remember that being part of the trial. Should we do it a little bit more, just a minute or two? Let's see.
Absolutely.
Again, you've been shown what's been called a Cellbrite extraction report, correct?
Yes.
Are you familiar with how many Cellbrite extraction reports were conducted in reference to your phone?
I think a couple. I'm actually not sure.
And prior to January 29th, 2022, had you ever seen a Cellbrite extraction report?
No.
As you sit here today, do you even really know what that is?
Not really, no.
Do you know what a wall file is?
No.
Do you know what an SQLite database is?
No.
Do you know what a knowledge profile C database is?
No.
Do you know how information is stored and kept within your cell phone?
No.
Now, as far as, let me ask you this, you had 4 children and you were a mom, a homemaker, correct?
Correct.
At some point you did work though, right?
Yes.
And what did you do for work?
I was an elementary school teacher.
What grade did
Frightening.
5th.
One question, and we'll see where this goes.
What grade did you teach?
5th.
And how long did you teach 5th grade?
Objection.
Yeah, I'm going to see counsel at sidebar.
Oh my God.
Folks, feel free to stay.
I mean, let's talk about trying to humanize the witness after she's come off as a
On
cold fish.
redirect.
It's just, help me.
Redirect. Okay.
Help me. Yeah, on redirect.
If you had done it beforehand, it's fine. Your history, you had the kids.
Of course. Little legal small talk. But yeah, here, after she's gone down in flames and looks so horribly, let's just try and humanize. Look, she's just a 5th grade elementary school teacher. Okay, let me, before we wrap up, make one comment about Life 360, which came up and which was one of the technologies that they talked about in this trial. First of all, once again, something I wish I had thought of because it's genius. Those who don't know it or have it, it's an app. They charge $10 or so a month, and it allows you to create kind of a family circle, many people you want to put in it, and it tracks them. It's a geolocation tracking system. Here's my concern about it, and I'll tell you one experience I had, which was both helpful and frightening. So Lisa, my wife, is working on the Jeffrey Epstein file, the docudrama.
Right.
She goes by herself to Little Epstein, and I call it Little Epstein Island. It was called Little, what was it called? The island he owned.
Yeah, whatever, the little one.
Yeah, they're off St. Thomas. She goes there by herself, meets a photographer. Okay, so she is not totally alone, but she's really alone. So I'm, of course, concerned, and I'm using 360 to make sure she's at least in the ballpark of where she needs to be, and then late at night she's back to the hotel. So late at night I'm looking, and she's not at the hotel according to 360, and she's in like a wooded area near the hotel. And of course, having had 1 or 2 true crime experiences,
about bodies in wooded areas.
Oh my God, your mind starts to go crazy. And so every time I check and refresh, it's like 2 a.m. Still, she's in the woods or the jungle, I guess it would be there. And so I call, no answer. All of this is feeding my neuroses and my anxiety. And the next morning, she checks in and she said, "Well, yeah, I was just tired. I went to bed and I turned my phone off," which she never does. And so here I am with Life 360 telling me, she's the dumped dead body in the forest in the woods. So my point is, it ain't perfect. It ain't DNA, right? It has
Right.
not risen to that level. Some of the other geolocating services maybe, but in my experience, Life 360 gets you in the ballpark, right? But you can't really count steps with it.
Okay, that's a good experience.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Yeah.
Great
So
experience. It's a great experience because Lisa's fine.
yes, and it had a happy ending. So we'll find out how important this testimony becomes, and I think more importantly, she'll obviously be on the stand going through very similar paces. How has she learned, if at all, from her prior testimony? Will we see differences in her demeanor? Will we see her less angry? I can't wait to see how it unfolds.
And we'll see cross-examination that shows that maybe she says something different this time, and then you have to impeach her. That should be fun if that
Oh my
happens.
gosh!
But there was something that did happen that we should talk about afterwards. The judge asked Alan Jackson if he wanted to bring her back. Do you remember what that was?
Oh my gosh, yeah, and we talked about that
Right.
as it unfolded. It had to do with a meeting that she had or didn't have with Officer Lank, and she had testified prior that she did not meet with him or have a conversation with him, and then it turns out that she met with him at she was dropping Carrie, and we know Carrie, who was with her that night when they found Officer John O'Keefe's body. Carrie's kids were there at that at the residence, and there was a meeting between the three of them, Carrie, Lank, and Jen McCabe, but that had been denied. And so then the question became, well, to what degree did they have a conversation? Was there an interview? Was it an official conversation? Was it a friendly conversation? The fact there was a conversation was impeaching, because she had
Right.
said on the stand she didn't.
Never met. Right.
And Judge C gave Alan Jackson the opportunity to recall her, even though she had been officially released. And he said, I've gotten what I need from her. I am
I've
not
done my
going to
damage or
recall
something
her.
like that.
That's right. I've done the damage with my cross-examination. So that became an issue later because there was one of the motions, post-trial motions. I think it might have been in the motion to dismiss, right?
Right.
Where that issue came up.
Right.
And
Right.
it was dismissed by the court because the court said, look, I gave you a shot at bringing her back, and you did not. So don't be whining about it now.
Well, now they're going to get to go over that because that's
Yep.
going to be prior testimony, and it's going to be
They're
impeachment
going to have
now.
the denial from trial one and her sitting there explaining that denial. So.
Yep, there we go. It's going to be that's why this is going to take longer than 6 weeks, and maybe, in my opinion, longer than 8 weeks. Because you're going to have a lot of that cross-examination and that impeachment that's going to go on, and that's why they need extra alternate jurors.
Yeah, and that's what they're working on. We hear. So Monday, trying to grab a couple more alts and then opening statements on Tuesday. We'll be heading up there on Monday to do the show from there for a couple of days. See how it goes. See if anybody gets arrested. So.
Yeah. Yeah, see how it goes.
All right.
And just see, by the way, speaking about press, did you see that there's a randomizer and that certain people do have press badges? And I think some of them have streaming networks, believe it or not.
I know. Funny how that happens.
Funny how that is, that they denied us based on the fact that we are on YouTube streaming, and yet they're allowing some other people who they said are legitimate sources, even though they have streaming networks. Very interesting, because I think that's a wrong denial. The question is, do we want to spend a fortune to try to try to go after it? But I think it's something that the court's going to have to address sooner or later, because it's simply wrong.
Yeah, and even if you get past that hurdle, the randomizer, which sounds like bullshit to me, the randomizer sounds like a bad movie. You throw the media passes in there, and then it spits out those that get to go in on a given day, plus a few alternates that might get to go in if some of the others don't make it. So that's another way to exclude you if they want to, if you believe the randomizer.
If you believe the randomizer, right. And also, if you have the alternates, what happens? You get put back in. Everyone gets put back in. So
that's what it sounds like. It's like a bingo game. I think everybody goes back into the hopper, and the randomizer will pull you out. Yeah, right. Okay. Well, we'll be there one way or the other.
Right.
So until then, hey, have a great weekend. I'm Michael Bryant. Try to do the right thing.
Well, we do have a lot of things happening over the weekend, and we'll talk about them on Monday and Tuesday when we see you, when Karen reads, hopefully, the retrial will start.
Yep. Oh, and check out the new merch store.